Welcome back. So, where are we now? What's going on? Why is everything wet? I'll tell you why. So, I ran out of Evaporust, so I went to my local auto parts store to get some more, and they didn't have any, but they had this Rust-Oleum Rust Dissolver. Never tried it before, so I thought I'd give it a try. What I'm finding is, well, this is supposed to remove any remaining residual rust from the tank. I'm hoping that's the idea. But I ended up with a whole new set of problems, and I'm glad it happened with this stuff. Gasoline is only, what, $2 a gallon for regular right now? But this is $22 a gallon. And it's pissing all over my floor. Side issue, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remove any remaining rust from the tank. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse it out with two-stroke mix, which contains, I'm going to use like a heavy oil mix and just kind of slosh it around in there and then drain it out until I'm ready to fire the engine. But on the way to Albuquerque, we ended up with a mild problem. Mild, to put it lightly. We have two leaks going on. Number one, this stopcock here isn't working. It's only mildly slowing the drips. So I'm trying to, because it's made of brass, it's a very malleable metal. I'm trying to get it to a point where it'll seal. I've cleaned it thoroughly, but I might have to find, you know, in retrospect, I might have to find a whole new fuel separator if it's this bad. I mean, I shouldn't have to go for broke and get it to seat. But also, the new bolt seal is leaking as well, which it should not be. You know, it's leaking from the bowl seal, which is brand new. And I don't want to have to reef on it. But, oh, there we go. But it's still leaking. Look at that. Still leaking. So this thing could shatter in my face, which would be a travesty. But now it's leaking from here. I can't. It's old plumbing, you know. Old plumbing is going to do what old plumbing does. It's going to leak. So, not really sure what I'm going to do about this. I might have to replace the entire fuel particle separator in the end. I hope not, because it's a nice original part and I don't want to replace it. Let's make sure all this stuff is tight. You know, that's all I can do right now. Yeah, I can't get the leaks to stop, so but if I open it up, we're gonna have to take this valve out and maybe replace most or all of it. Make sure that there's no particles in the valve itself that could be causing our leak. But it doesn't, it's not happening. Yeah, this is wonderful. But, you know, the good news is it's not gasoline. If it were gasoline, we'd have a much bigger problem because we'd be spilling gasoline everywhere. But it would also eat the paint off the block, which, after all I've done, that would just make my day a little worse. So, what we don't know right now is the condition of the float. You know, if I had this line hooked up, we'd have this stuff pouring into the carburetor. And in theory, the carburetor should stop the flow as soon as it reaches the bowl. But we don't know for sure if that's going to work out. This is not how I envisioned this to go. So once this all leaks out, of course I'm going to have to pour it back in again. Dear old Michael Finnegan. And hold on, I'm going to pour it back in so it doesn't drain out completely. So, while we're waiting for all that to settle down, we need to do now is start working on our cylinder head. Clean it up as best we can. Okay, here we go. All right, that's something. Now let's get this washed off. I just want to take a moment to show you this head here. It's hard to really appreciate just how complex this part must have been for them to produce in 1937. It's just incredibly complex. You've got enclosed fins. This must have been very expensive to make. But the fins are totally enclosed. The idea is the air goes through here and exits out the back. It's just amazing that they made it this way. I mean, I've never seen an air-cooled head made this way. I'm not really an engine hobbyist, so to speak. So I've just never seen anything quite like this. I'm gonna go back and maybe. No, that's as good as I'm gonna get it. It's down to bare aluminum. It's just looks a little rough. It's hard to also look at this. This is awful. Somebody really did this engine a disservice. In fact, I might even have to have this head planed. These scratches go super deep into the combustion area. Look at this. This scratch right here, that's bad. Somebody took a screwdriver at one point and tried to clean this head. It's really a shame. They got it good. It may leak right here and here, but those scratches don't go all the way to the perimeter, so I think we're all right. But somebody really butchered it, and you can tell. See, what I use to decarbon an engine, and I've done it this way since I was before I was a teenager, but I use a wire wheel mounted to a drill, a brass brush, or usually a brass brush is the best, I think, but you see these scratches on the cylinder, or on the piston. Look at that. Somebody tried to decarbon this engine in the worst way possible, which lends me to believe that this engine was a heavy oil burner in its day. This engine's probably needed a ring job for quite a while. That's my estimation here. That's what I believe. This engine has been in desperate need of an entire ring job for years before it was finally laid up to rest. And that's just sad. It's just very sad that it was so neglected. I mean, and again, the repair work that I've seen done on this engine is just horrendous. Gaskets made out of RTV, a cork gasket in the fuel separator that was just a giant circle of cork that would have blocked the fuel flow almost completely. How this engine ran at all, I don't know, ever. It's just very, very, very poor workmanship. And I say this knowing full well that it could have been my own grandfather, and I hope it wasn't him. But again, I don't know. I didn't even know he had this engine until long after he passed away. Well, actually, no, just before he passed away. So anyway, we're going to put the head gasket on and the head. This is the last time, hopefully, we have to see this side of the motor. Head goes on like this. Okay. I've got my head bolts already cleaned and ready to go. I've got some spacers. And let's see what she does. So I've got this one here. It goes there. Where's the plug? The plug is over here on the side, on the back actually, on the back. So let's get these, just get them lined up. I don't know what the torque specs are on these bolts. The manual doesn't even tell me. So I'm going to just guesstimate. I'm going to do it by feel. You know what? That's what people did back then. They didn't whip out their pocket calculators and their torque wrenches. When this engine was, in its heyday, I don't think most people had those tools available to them, so they would do it by feel. Tight enough is what they would do. And as far as the torque pattern, they would just stagger them. There is a specific pattern that the manufacturer would recommend, but look, I'm going to go look that up, seriously. So let's get these bolts in. This engine is well on its way to being a running example. As far as my little leakage here, it stopped. It just stopped leaking. I opened the valve up wide open to flush it out into this container down here. In fact, I'm going to do it. Yeah, it's still leaking a little bit. Not sure why though. But the sediment bowl is doing its thing. Look at this. There is sediment in that bowl. So it's doing its job. Anyway, while we're waiting for that to happen, why don't we just do this? And this one doesn't require a spacer. I do not have a kill switch. The kill switch on this motor is simply a piece of metal that grounds out the plug. So when we do get this engine started, we're going to just ground it out any way we can. So I was going to use the fuel shutoff to kill the engine, but that's not going to work for me. I don't trust it. There we go. Okay, so we just get these all nice and snug. Looks like that shroud has to be underneath. Okay. There we go. Let's get a 1/2 inch socket. Alright, I looked up the torque specs on the cylinder head for this engine, and for most Briggs and Stratton cast iron L-head engines, it's going to be about 190 inch-pounds. Converted, that's roughly 15 foot-pounds. Actually, closer to 16. So why don't we do that? Let's put it at 16 foot-pounds. Here we go. So we're going to start off, we're going to go like this. Boom, 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 boom. Let's try that. Oh. Try the right socket size for starters. what's that? 1/2 inch. That's what I thought I grabbed. Okay, here we go. Gonna just snug them up a little bit. Never do it sequentially. That's gonna cause you some heartache. Now, there's a very real possibility that one of these bolts may strip. The one that was closest to the exhaust, that was this one here, I have a reasonable suspicion that it will strip out. So I just want to warn you, I'm not surprised. If it happens, I wouldn't be surprised. So, just heads up. So, and if that happens, I'm going to have to do a helicoil, so it's not the end of the world. I don't want it to happen, but it could happen. Okay, good. Send it home. Come on. Home, as though I did not strip. Good. 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 You go back to them because as everything settles, the head gasket could still be compressing. Okay. We're home. This engine should have compression now. We might want to put the spark plug in though. It's recommended. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little bit of anti-seize because that's just what I do. Where's that? Oh, I already got it out. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on the plug just because it seems like the right thing to do. Not much, just a little dab. A little dab will do you. There we go. And I think that we're going to tighten it down with a wrench. I think I have a wrench that size. See what we got. Yeah. Okay. Plugs in. Let's see what we get. That was the exhaust stroke. Not really a lot of compression. I don't feel a lot of resistance, but I'm not worried about that just yet. Once the rings begin to seat, then we'll get a better picture of what's going on inside. All right, my fuel separator is not leaking at the moment, so hooray for small miracles. We're just going to let it sit for a little longer. I have a lot of heavy rust on this in this tank, so we're going to let it sit for a little bit, let it chill out. Now, because this is such a fast-acting product, it's been soaking for maybe an hour or so. Let's just see what it looks like, and then maybe we refill it and see how that looks. So I'm going to need my the jug here, and I'm going to grab a funnel. Pour this back in. Okay. I'll grab a nice funnel here. And we're just gonna let it out. This tank surprisingly holds nearly a gallon of fuel. I'd say probably pretty close to, if not over, 3/4 of a gallon. So this engine was meant for a long run. Like, run it till it's done, you know? I've got the fuel cock open all the way. We're also flushing out a lot of stuff too. Well, our bowl isn't leaking anymore, so that's good. Let's drain her down and see. Let's see what horrors lie within. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drain it by flipping it back into the container. Like so. But I'm going to do it inside this bucket. Any spillover isn't lost. At $20-some a gallon, I'm not going to take that chance. So let's take the tank off. And here we go. Okay, this stuff is coming out nice and clean, so it is reusable. It's not contaminated or anything of that sort. Okay. Alright. Wow. That worked really well. Let's take a look. The camera might not be able to see what's inside, but we're sure gonna try. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. No, there's still some rust on the ridge. But all the rust on the bottom is gone, effectively. So we're going to let it soak overnight. That's what we're going to do. But before we do, I want to take a look at my my bowl seal. See what on earth is going on with that. Why is not the bowl seal? Yeah, the bowl seal, but also the bowl itself. So let's pop that sucker off and see what's going on. There's a lot of debris in here, as there's going to be. But I'm going to put it down in there. Let's take that off. Let's why don't we remove this assembly? Let's see some measures here. Let's see here. What the hell is causing this leak? So how it's supposed to work is this stopcock is supposed to, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to, I don't want to scratch my freshly painted tank. All right, what it's supposed to do is, you know, work. All right. I think I see what we need to do. What we need to do is get some fine sandpaper, and we need to sand. You can see where yes. You see this little rust, this little discolored ridge? No, you don't. You don't see that. Well, there's a discolored ridge here. That's where it impacts. That's where it's sealing up against the and then there's a little bright spot here. If we take a little sandpaper, fine stuff, and we can seal it up. We can fix it. Looking inside there, and yeah, that's a little rough, isn't it? Well, I think we can make it work. Anyway, what this is supposed to do is stop the flow of fuel going into the bowl. Yeah, it's supposed to stop the flow going into the bowl, not coming out the other end. So, and it's threaded and all that. So, why don't we do this? I'm going to run to the basement. I'm going to clean this guy up as best I can. Give it a nice tight seal. Let's see what happens. I'm going to level with you folks. I just took that valve apart and I did not like what I saw. It does not look pretty, especially where the valve seats to, or where it locks, you know, where it closes. Long story short, I may not be able to save that separator. That may have to be replaced. The thing is, the metal is so badly pitted, it just doesn't look savable. Which is a shame because I really wanted to preserve that piece. But I can't, you know, if I can't save it, I can't save it. It looks nasty. But we're gonna put this stuff back in, and we're gonna let it sit overnight. I think that's the smart thing to do. So I put it back together again. I close the valve, and we're just going to see what happens. Now, I have another concern that this Rust-Oleum product is actually damaging the pot metal. Now, I have a theory behind that. I have a really good theory that it is eating the pot metal. Because I don't remember... Damn it! I don't remember it being as bad as it is now. Now that I think about it. But, you know, I could be onto something. So, we're going to just hope. Now, that bowl... Yeah, it's leaking. Well, the bowl is filling up right now. So... that means that the valve is doing nothing to stop the flow. So I'm going to have to start looking for a new valve, the whole thing. The valve itself is fine. It's the body that it's comprised of. In other words, it's not the replaceable piece like the valve core. It's the entire body that it goes into. So I'm going to have to look for another fuel separator. So there's nothing I can do to save it. And I close the valve even more. See, all the metal that comprised the valve seat where it locks into, it's all gone. It's just gone. So tightening it up just doesn't do a thing. Alright, so we're going to let that sit. I'm going to put this bucket under it like I did before. And we're going to just let it drip out. I mean, that's it. Well, I just learned something today. Rather, I learned it the hard way. See, I come from the school of hard knocks. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. So as it turns out, this stuff here, Rust-Oleum Rust Dissolver, does not work in the same manner as our friend Evapo-Rust. As a matter of fact, this is what's causing the damage to this, more than likely. Let me explain. Alright guys, I just want to point something out real quick. Really be careful with the chemicals that you buy. If you know a particular product and it's not available and then you try something new, make sure you look into what the ramifications might be with that new product, because I have never used Rust-Oleum Rust Dissolver before. It's a product that I've never used because I've always had Evapo-Rust available to me. Some auto parts stores don't carry Evapo-Rust, and apparently Lowe's no longer carries it either. You know, those are two very unfortunate things. But here's the situation that I'm up against. The stuff that I normally use, which is Evapo-Rust, it does not affect non-ferrous metals. It doesn't contain any acids. It's a very mild product. Hell, you could almost use it as a cocktail mixer. It's really safe to use. However, Rust-Oleum rust dissolver does its job in a fairly different chemical process that involves phosphoric acid. Now, phosphoric acid is actually in sodas in very low quantities. But one thing that phosphoric acid can do over longer periods of time especially is it can attack metals. It can attack steel, it can attack aluminum. Although the bottle does say it does not attack aluminum, I'm seeing some really heavy pitting in this part that I just don't remember seeing before. It doesn't mean it wasn't there, but I just don't remember it being so bad. What I'm getting at is this. Whether we're destroying this part by using it, by cleaning the tank with the part installed, or if it was like this before, we have to replace it. So I went ahead and I ordered a brand new fuel particle separator. AntiqueBriggs.com, and they're not sponsoring any videos. I have had no communication with the owner. This is completely just me talking. They sell a brand new. It doesn't look antique enough for me, but it'll get the job done. The thing is, I could go through eBay and try to find another one of these, and only to have it fail. Only to find out it has the same problem, and then I'm going to keep going back and forth, trying to find one, blowing money out the window, trying to find a particle separator that isn't a piece of trash. So that's, I don't want to go through that rigmarole right now. Unless I can find one that's been rebuilt, which, wish in one hand. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and I've already ordered the new one. And it should be here next week. And around the same time, I will have received a couple of other parts that I ordered. What else did I buy? I ordered a fuel tank cap. So that's on order. But $20, I get a whole new, I don't have to worry about the valve not working. I don't have to worry about leaks or anything like that. It's a 1.5-inch bowl versus a 2-inch, so it's not as visually striking. It doesn't have any brass bits. I mean, I'm a little upset about this, but I want to get this thing going, and I need a fuel system that I can depend on, or fuel delivery system that I can depend on. So let's just hope that's really the worst thing that happens as a result of all of this. This thing is so ready to start, though. I'm telling you, it is begging to be started. It is like, start me. But right now, yeah, I could start it. I could. If I put fuel in that tank and just gave it a good pull, it would start. I'm 99% sure of it. But that would be, we're just going to wait. We're going to be patient, and we're going to wait for the parts to show up. Our head, that went on without a hitch. I was worried about this bolt right here. I was sick about this bolt, that it was going to strip out, but it didn't. This is the one that had damaged threads from a bolt that had rusted in place, and I really had a hell of a time getting it out of there. Like, to the point where I almost gave up. And I was getting ready to helicoil the freaking thing. But that didn't happen. It actually is held the torque as specified. Once the engine heats up and heat cycles a few times, one can only hope that it stays relatively decent. But anyway, we're almost there, folks. I can practically smell the burned oil.